what I've seen in clips.
Well, even if you did, like, I didn't play anything of yours, you know what I mean?
Right,
So.
but I don't strike people, period. I don't strike people, period.
You know, simply by this video existing, some people will feel naturally inclined to leave a comment and tell me that I'm some kind of an ist, that I stand for some isms, and you know what, at some point you just have to embrace it, and that's right. Today I'm coming out as an ist, and I believe in multiple isms. Suck a dick. So LyfeofaFreeSpirit, or Kelly, is a part of Haydur Nation, which is a bunch of people that react to Amalernin, Foodie Booty, and sometimes some other people, but mostly these two. So they also utilize clips and they utilize original content from these creators in order to give reactions or critiques or do parodies or literally whatever they want. So LyfeofaFreeSpirit specifically has the worst response to criticism imaginable on this platform. And it is repeated behavior, so much so that we can pinpoint specific tactics that get utilized over and over. And the examples that I want to use in this video are not even older than a year, and she's been on this platform for many years. So yeah, it keeps happening, and it's just kind of escalated recently. So I'm not saying that in all these dramas and all these examples that she's like always the one in the wrong in those specific situations, but if the same problem occurs multiple times with multiple people over multiple times in a span of less than a year, then maybe you are the problem. You'll come to see that although she brands herself as the queen of receipts, there's no receipts to be shown, and good fucking luck finding all the receipts for the points and claims that she's making. You'd have to cross-reference, and you'd have to take deep dives and watch multiple live streams to even get to the point of what is being said, never mind the receipts. Quite often there happens to be receipts of exactly the opposite of what she's saying, so I think that's pretty fucking funny. So yeah, I will only give a broad overview of the drama in each case so that I can make my own point, because I really want to focus on how she specifically acts or responds instead of who's right and who's wrong in each specific drama that I bring up. And I want to show how I suspect most seriously that Kelly has false copyright struck a channel, which has led to its swift and immediate termination. I want to show how Kelly always uses identity politics instead of receipts and is thus a perpetual victim of her own doing. But before I get into that, please remember not to send anybody any hate, harassment or bullying. Please do not any false reports or flags on any videos. I absolutely do not condone that. I also just want to make it clear that when I discuss specific dramas with specific figures in the community, it is not because I pick either side, it is rather that I want to highlight a pattern of behavior and a pattern of reasoning. So Kelly has a habit of saying something is okay when she does it, but it's wrong when somebody else does it. And she also has a habit of understanding how she can be a victim in a situation and somebody else cannot be. Because once you agree with her, once you have the same viewpoint as her, then you are automatically correct. So I just want to highlight patterns like that. It doesn't mean that when I bring up a conflict that I'm picking a side, and it doesn't even mean that I agree with Kelly or the other party. It just means, like I said, to highlight a pattern. To prove why I believe that Kelly did issue false copyright strikes against Terry Chaffels and should probably do something, talk to some kind of a representative to help that person get their channel back, because this is deeply, deeply unsettling that it is just casually glossed over within this community on YouTube. So the most important context that you need to know is that recently Callie and her fiance Shane broke up, and it is very unfortunate. They seemed happy at the time. I don't know, don't want to get into it. However, what immediately happened is that Callie made a stream called Crisis Stream, in which she basically cried, spilled some tea, and defamed some character in this said stream. Of course, this received mixed responses. Some people said that she was in fact scamming her audience because she created the impression that she was in dire need of financial assistance because she had recently relocated for this fiance, and she now is left with the bills because he left her, he walked out on her. Other people said that she is well within her right to have a spurg out session on her stream, and that her fans are, you know, basically helping fools part with their money. If they want to give her money, as long as she doesn't pretend that it's something that it's not, then it doesn't qualify as a scam. So these were immediately two reactions that came to light, and personally I tend to agree with the latter, that if not create the impression that the money's going to go somewhere where it's not, then it's fine. I personally don't care at all. People can super chat whoever they want, whatever. But the result of this was that she was accused of scam. And this was kind of the start of all the drama. Haydur Nation divided into two groups. One saying that yes, it is a scam, supporting creators Yaba and Sam, versus Callie. And Shane, the ex, was kind of a no-show during the initial stages. In fact, he didn't speak out. That was also part of the reason why Callie got criticized, because he didn't say anything while she was absolutely destroying his character online. However, this would be the appropriate time to see how Callie reacts when getting this type of criticism.
Ties are populating up Yaba and Sam's chats. Yaba and Sam have been called out for the microaggressive racist comments in their chats about myself, Charlie, and other Black creators, right? Right?
So here we can see that instead of engaging with the criticism at hand, instead of merely saying, fuck you guys, this is my community, they wanted to give me money, instead of that, two figureheads were immediately called out as being racist, which automatically makes people divide and automatically creates the impression that Callie's community is a huckbox, not open to any type of criticism. This could have gone either way, but this was the start of the apocalypse. Thereafter, the ex in question, Shane, dropped a bunch of privated live stream videos on Twitter, which kind of creates the impression that Callie is posing a threat to Shane. I'll just go that far because you can't really go further than that, but anybody saying that they felt uncomfortable after seeing those clips probably are justified, and I believe that Callie did not want those clips to exist. So of course the former love of Callie's life, ex-fiance, is now indeed conclusively a racist.
Mind you, I've not once condoned any transphobic language against him, and I still don't, and I won't. Okay? The fact that Shane is willing to support the very racist, microaggressive narratives against me to hurt me is fucking sick. You were never my ally. You were never genuine. This is insane.
Now, the reason why this context is important is because our channel in question, Terry Taffels, was one of those channels that was highly critical of Callie specifically, uploading clips, which I of course cannot show you because the channel has since been terminated. So keep that in the back of your mind as we trace the patterns of Callie. One particularly important pattern that we will notice, and you would notice it if you follow Callie on Twitter, this seems to happen very frequently and it has been happening for years, and that is that she has quite the interest and the trigger finger when it comes to reporting other channels. And by that I mean absolutely campaigning on her profiles to tell her audience to go and report stuff. Now, I'm not saying that it's always wrong. Of course, if something is actually harmful in some way, if it is violating terms of service, if it is nudity or self-harm or any of those terms of services, of course you should be reporting it. That's why the report feature exists. However, reporting somebody because they tend to have a channel that is critical of you is not a good look. Doing this multiple times to multiple creators, well, I mean, yes, you can call them trash, you can give reasons as to why you believe that they should not be on YouTube, but you are undeniably sending your audience towards them to report and mass flag them.
I understand that. I think the reason why he's mad is because I didn't even know this. So as you guys can see, these are 2 streams that were directly re-uploaded to his #SayNegative channel. Yeah, that's gonna be 2 strikes from me, dog. However, we all know in order to get a channel removed, it takes 3 strikes, right? Honey, I ain't give you that 3rd strike, so you were probably already operating on a strike already, and you're trying to frame it and make it seem like I'm the one just like being hypocritical and trying to take you down and all this shit. No, honey, you only received 2 strikes.
And 2 of these channels now have effectively been removed, including Miss Hussey former channel and the Negative Nation next channels. They all had multiple channels, and I can't actually go through any of their content to tell you whether or not they did violate any terms of service or if they were simply critical of Kelly in a very mean-spirited way, which they probably were. I just don't know because they're terminated and she made sure that they were. Now, with specifically the next channel, he was issued 2 copyright strikes by Kelly. Keep that in mind. They were copyright strikes, not flags, not campaigns, but actually strikes. And if we compare that to another channel, Haydur Nation News Network, who frequently gets flagged by Kelly and often appeals it, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So we should obviously take a moment here to quickly go over the difference between striking a channel and flagging a channel.
Anyone can manually submit a copyright takedown, but that doesn't make it the easier choice. Now, if we take this out of the context of YouTube for a moment, this is commonly known as a DMCA takedown, and it's protected by US law. The rights holder has certain obligations when they request these types of takedowns. They must provide contact information, a thorough description of the content they want to protect, and a sworn testament of good faith that they haven't given permission to the uploader who's using that copyrighted content. Once this takedown request has been filed, YouTube has no choice but to remove the video. The uploader will be notified, and at this stage they have 3 choices. They can contact the copyright owner and ask them to retract the copyright takedown. They can send a counter notice because the uploader believes that their content isn't infringing on copyright, or they can simply accept the decision. And that's the point at which the copyright strike would be issued against the channel. And just as a reminder, you cannot simply delete the offending video. The copyright strike is against your entire channel, not an individual video.
In an ever-changing world where there's 400 hours worth of YouTube uploaded every minute or every second, one of those stats is important, there is always going to be abuse when it comes to content. Now, YouTube is cracking down on said content, but they're having to remove comment sections and they're having to slap the wrists of some completely innocent creators. But the best way for us as a community to police this kind of thing is to report videos that are indeed outside of the community guidelines. Basically, if you find a video offensive, if it's gory, if it's violent, if it shouldn't be on YouTube, if it's clearly extremist or dangerous to somebody's mental health, physical health, or well-being, then you can click the report button, and I'll show you how you can do that. Let's go to the computer. Okay, so you found a video that you want to report. Maybe it's insulting, maybe it's triggered you, maybe it's dangerous to people. You go to the video, you scroll down, you'll see more, the little drop down that says report. At this point, it will give you the option of why you are reporting it, so sexual content kind of thing. And once you're done and you choose your option, you can highlight exactly the timestamp and type in a more detailed description of why this is a problem, and then you click submit. This then goes to a human being who then pores over this, and then they choose whether or not it's an acceptable flag or not.
Oh, and please take notes. Kelly, you specifically, because you fucked up so many times in this distinction, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Or you are, and you're trying to pretend that you're not, because you want to be a sneaky, sneaky little girl. Okay, so let me just make this clear. Let me make this abundantly clear. A copyright strike is something that YouTube cannot determine whether it is or is not the case, because it actually requires the law. It's part of DMCA law, and it means that somebody effectively stole your content. The only thing that YouTube can do is be the third party in between two in order to deliver communications. So for example, every single one of you reactors that use any of Amberlynn's clips, she would be well within her right to actually go manually and copyright claim the fuck out of that, so that you get a strike if you do not appeal it, right? And that is only because YouTube cannot determine, they're not legally allowed to. So saying that I issued a copyright strike and it went through, therefore YouTube agrees with me, that is factually incorrect. YouTube does not agree or disagree with you in that sense. It's not allowed to. It only mitigates. If somebody does not appeal, then it's automatically accepted if there is a content match. So issuing a strike is incredibly serious, because it's against the channel. 3 strikes and your channel gets terminated. And if somebody does appeal it, then it means they have to give you their full legal information. In other words, everything that you would need to dox somebody, every single thing. So that means that the person who is trying to claim that you are stealing their content, if you believe that it's fair use and they are being malicious, then you have to dox yourself to that person. And if they then still do not accept your docs as sufficient to remove that strike, then they have to take you to court. So this is a very serious and legal process, and therefore YouTube does not enforce the law. It cannot, it's not allowed to do so. So a strike is very different from flagging a video. Flagging a video is that little report button you see down below, and that actually makes or forces one of YouTube's interns to sit there behind a screen and actually see if you are just bitching, or if it's a mass flag, or if it matters or not. And if it looks like it's working, then they allow it, and then they pass it through. And then of course you can fight it and appeal it, but that is only applicable to one video and it expires over time. Same with a copyright strike if you do not get too many strikes. However, sending multiple strikes to somebody will absolutely, and everybody should know this, every YouTube creator, sending multiple strikes will result in termination effective immediately, before the channel has any time to appeal and refute and fight against this. So it's abusive. It's inherently an abusive way to silence a critic in the most severe sense, because they would have to dox themselves and defend themselves in court in order to fight back against it. Whereas with a flag, you simply tell YouTube, hey, this is what I think is inappropriate, and then YouTube uses its discretion, because it doesn't at that time require any intervention from the law. So Callie mixes up these words a lot, but effectively she used copyright strike against Negs and he lost his channel, and she used flagging against Haydur Nation News Network and she passed through it because Callie was literally, according to YouTube, just straight up bitching about it and not able to take the joke or the criticism or whatever the videos in question were. And they had no say about Negs. He got his channel terminated. He cannot appeal it because he doesn't have the channel to appeal it. So that would be the difference. However, in both cases, note how Callie did what she could do, the maximum that she could do in her power in order to counter the criticism, warranted or not. Oh, and of course she had to just do this because these people are racist.
You cannot, you have to have proof that the person is a racist or something like that. You can't just be throwing the word around like that. That's very offensive. And when I told her she deserves what she gets, I don't mean racist behavior.
Now let's look at the Cherry Tuffles channel. This is a channel that used clips, added their own text, and then added music. And the only thing that Callie noted was that they made obsessive content about her specifically, and they were all critical and therefore unacceptable. So you would think to some extent that she does not think that this is allowed on YouTube, not that it just hurt her fifis, but that this should be terminated and against YouTube. So what you typically do when somebody hurts your fifis or when you don't like it is you use the flag and report button, Why? Because this is not about the idea that something is not fair use, which is the copyright system. This is about the idea that you need to report content to YouTube because they violate the terms of service. Not the law. They didn't break the law. They just hurt your fifis. Two different systems. You're not allowed to use the one instead of the other when they are like differently applicable, because then you, fun fact, used a false copyright strike in order to silence a critic objectively. That is literally what you did. So you're not allowed to say that the reason why you struck this person is because they made obsessive content or because they used clips. You are only allowed to copyright strike if you believe that what they did was not fair use. So according to them, what they did is they added music and they added text to the content. And they only also used clips. They didn't re-upload entire segments. So, okay, if that is the case, ma'am, tell us then, why do you absolutely disagree with yourself when it comes to Apathetic Facts? So, Apathetic Facts is a larger channel who re-uploads content with text and some audio, and it's specifically about Amberlynn Reid, the person who Callie also makes a shit ton of videos on, like a lot of videos on Amberlynn. So obviously obsessive and excessive content is not Callie's problem, of course, because that would be blatantly hypocritical. That's not the problem. And since she went to bat for Apathetic Facts and claimed that Amberlynn Reid was abusing the copyright system when she struck Apathetic Facts, and she went to bat for her both on her YouTube and her Twitter, then you would believe that that should be true for Cherry Chaffles as well. Or is it only okay because you are in favor of ridiculing and mocking Amberlynn Reid and therefore, you know, quote unquote fair use reaction channel towards her, but when it's done to you, then it's a legal matter, then the system is keeping a good black woman down? Tell us how that works. Just tell us how that works. And no, I do not think it's because Terry Taffels is indeed a racist.
Why do you gotta make everything racist when the answer is because you're being racist? Yes, and microaggressive.
Now, I suspect the reason for taking down these clips was because they had to do with the criticism regarding the aforementioned scamming and slanderous and threatening behavior towards the ex Shane. And it's specifically because the video has both Callie and Shane in the title, and it's, I assume, therefore, obviously I cannot check, there is no re-upload of this content, but this person is not a monetized channel. This person doesn't even have enough subscribers to monetize their content. They were clearly doing this for their own sake, or even to only merely start. So it's not like they had a shit ton of viewers. So clearly this affected Callie on some deep level, and this meant that Callie issued 12 copyright strikes with the quickness, which meant that Terry Chaffles was in deep fucking REM sleep and woke up and didn't have a channel anymore. There was literally nothing that they could do to appeal it. There was no way that they could combat this. There was no way that they could say, actually, this is an abuse. And 12 is an overkill, since every creator knows that 3 strikes, you are out. So striking a channel 12 times comes across as no longer caring about the concept of fair use and thinking that it was wrongly applied, but comes across as a little bit fucking butthurt, unable to take criticism, and therefore overkilling a channel and then stepping aside, moving on as if nothing fucking matters. But you know, don't say anything, otherwise you're racist. Ah, but the plot thickens. Remember earlier I mentioned Yaba and Sam, the 2 creators who kept the receipts and called Callie out for scamming her fans? And that was the narrative that they created and ran with. They were the first to start this apocalypse. Well, during that time, Yaba had shown in her live stream, she had used, well, she's a reaction channel as well. So she reacted to a live stream from Callie, and in this live stream, somebody sponsored some money, and their name, their YouTube channel name that they chose for this live stream was then of course reflected and shown on Yaba's live stream, and therefore Yaba was accused of doxing somebody because it is their real name. So this person who uses their real name on YouTube was now quote unquote doxed by Yaba and Sam. The problem with this is, of course, that it's public and therefore it's not doxing. It's literally what the person chose to put into the public. If you dox yourself, you dox yourself. That's not illegal. However, of course, if you can claim something is doxing in somebody else's content, then there might be a chance that you could flag it for, you know, privacy reasons. However, Yaba did not yield, but do remember this story. Do remember it. Okay, so what happens later on? Well, of course, after the doxing had absolutely zero effect, even though I'm unsure as to how many people reported it, it turned out that that story was even a lie. This person, or the receipt of the doxing, came from 2021, and it was a whole shebang. Long story short, no doxing occurred, but intuitively we been new. Okay, so a week ago, Callie spotted another way to take down a critic, a bully online. So this random person on Twitter, who I'm not going to show, actually made a little meme joke type of thing with Amberlyn Reed regarding her girlfriend and saying that, oh, you know, the girlfriend was spotted just like Bigfoot. And Callie seized this opportunity to take down one of her critics, you know, settle old beef, I guess. And that is to make a video exposing this rando as a complete racist for using the picture of Bigfoot. You know, they do have their public profile on Twitter, and they do have their full name and picture in the title, which is what it is. That's, again, the same rules apply. It is public and it is your doing. And Callie did not censor anything out. She basically named and shamed and dragged this person in front of her entire community to show that they are indeed racist, even though there was no clear racist remarks or intention behind the meme. But I am sure it caused a bunch of backlash. She's white and she criticized Callie, so therefore she's obviously a racist, right? Okay, so this person retaliated by issuing a privacy complaint, which is flagging, not a copyright strike, it's just a flag, which resulted in this video had to be taken down, because when you do flag for privacy, you have to submit to YouTube that you say who you are, and you have to timestamp it and tell them that this is in fact a breach of your privacy. And that could be your name, face, voice, whatever, all of those things, as long as you're willing to identify it with YouTube. And then YouTube saw that and said, aha, these two things are the same. Now, of course, Callie is throwing a bitch fit over this because, I mean, she did lose her video over this, and clearly this person did it as a retaliation for, well, I think Callie's original retaliation to the retaliation, of course, as they do in Haydur Nation, right? And so Callie is pretty upset because this person posted on Twitter that they know it's not doxing. They're not that butthurt about it, but the rules are the rules, and yeah, it is her privacy on a public platform, so she does have that right. However, I don't care, pick a side, fight amongst each other. What I care about is this idea that Yaba supposedly doxed somebody, and when it's Callie's turn doing exactly the same, it's clearly, obviously not doxing, and only a way for this white woman to avoid being called a racist on Callie's channel. That's what I'm concerned about. How fucking low can we not notice the patterns at this point? And then if you check the comment section, case in point, Callie does not understand, or pretends not to understand, the difference between flagging a video and copyright striking it. This person did not download this video from Google Earth and then filed a copyright strike. No, that would be a legal issue that you'd be able to fight. The difference is so important, as we said earlier. Striking is very, very, very severe, very bad, and that is actually what you did, Callie. That's the bad thing. That's what you're being criticized for. And then, of course, she tagged Team YouTube on Twitter to, again, tell them about this copyright strike and how she doesn't want to fill in this form, which you need to in order to counter it, to prove that you are who you are and, you know, appeal it. Like we said, you have to dox yourself. And she's afraid to do that. And guess what? The Terry Chaffels person that she struck also does not want to fill in a form and dox themselves, so they too are accepting the fate of not having a channel. Here's the difference though, Callie. With you, you get to lose the views from one video. One specific video of you calling somebody a racist, somebody who really doesn't matter in Haydur Nation because they don't have a channel. The other person lost their entire channel. Like they completely lost all the videos. They're not entitled to getting the videos back at all. The channel does not exist at all. There's no archive of this. There's no way to save it. It is completely permanently off of YouTube. So what I'm saying here is if we just compare how bad things are, you cannot cry when you're doing exactly the same except worse. Literally verifiably worse. So let's just go over that. First of all, you absolutely dragged your ex on public display for no good reason. He didn't actually even do anything illegal, right? Otherwise, you know, why are we talking about this online and not to the police? He didn't do anything illegal. So yeah, that reputation, let's just say it's gone. You falsely accused somebody of doxing, which is very severe and totally unverified. You did not take that back as far as I know. You keep threatening smaller channels with striking and flagging, even though you can only get away with flagging sometimes, and with striking you clearly are not afraid to issue multiple strikes to get that person terminated before there's even a chance to argue that it's fair use. They literally have no voice and they're so small they can't even do anything about it. And you obviously don't care about the fair use aspect, because otherwise you wouldn't have been backing up apathetic facts until this point. And you do not care about excessive critical content, because you yourself make excessive critical content on one or two specific people all the time. There's very few people who have had so many videos on Amberlynn Reid as you do. And then of course you need to understand the difference between flagging a video and copyright striking a video. And for God fucking sake, everybody who's critical of you is not a racist. Sometimes people don't like you for other reasons. Sometimes it's just not that good. Sometimes you in fact are the problem. Yeah, I think she should rebrand from the Queen of Receipts to the Queen of the Struggle. And well, should the Queen of the Struggle be deplatformed? Fuck no, this crazy bitch is hilarious. Yeah, well, fuck it. I'm just a thought with an opinion and I'm in my ist arc. Bile.
I guess that it just shows once again that YouTube is willing to allow false privacy complaints to negatively affect creators like myself. But then we have a person like Chantal who's on the platform who has not only successfully ban evaded, but
I had a bit of a chuckle at her most recent upload. She says that Foodie Booty is ban evading and that it's wrong and that YouTube should look into it, but she's not ban evading because otherwise she wouldn't have her original channel back. Her ban was cleared. She's not banning. However, in that exact same video, she's playing a recording of somebody who is ban evading on Twitter. Yes, she's literally at this exact same moment in time thinking that Foodie Booty bad. She's ban evading, and then playing recordings of her friend who is in fact ban evading. I think that that's fucking hilarious, and the lack of self-awareness is absolutely adorable.
Really interesting, because even with that tweet with Yaba saying she only hates me because I'm white, or with what Shane's doing, and her saying you called her racist.
Callie never change.
And it's disappointing, but it's to be expected.